Yes, yes, we get it. Disney's Snow White, starring Rachel Zegler, just pulled off the impossible, back-to-back trailers hitting 1 million dislikes. But hold on, folks, the real show is just getting started, and trust me, this is one party. Mickey Mouse definitely doesn't want an invite to Disney's hoping for a big win, but the box office projections? Well, let's just say the lines to the theaters might be shorter than the Seven Dwarfs themselves. Welcome, welcome, everyone. You've arrived at the place that keeps you ahead of the entertainment curve, breaking down Hollywood madness with passion and zeal, no matter what the Hollyweirds think. Before we dive in, do us a favor, smash that like button. Now, let's talk numbers, because Disney's next live-action remake is shaping up to be a disaster. And this comes right after Captain America already put Bob Iger and his crew in damage. Control mode. 2025 is looking rough, folks. Check this out. Game Rant is calling Snow White a poisoned apple at the box office. And honestly, that's putting it lightly. The projections are already rolling in, and while some optimistic voices claim there's still hope, Maleficent and the Lion King prequel managed to survive Backlash. Let's be real, this is looking grim. According to Deadline, Quorum reports that Snow White is tracking for a $63 to $70 million opening weekend. Other sources peg it at $65 million. Now, sure, that might sound okay on paper, but when you compare it to past Disney remakes, yikes. And here's the kicker. This would actually be Rachel Zegler's best domestic opening yet. Which, honestly, not a great look for The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So, is this remake doomed? Is Disney about to take another massive loss? Stick around, because we're about to break it all down. So, Rachel Zegler's Snow White might be tracking a $65 million opening, but let's put that into perspective. Her highest domestic debut so far? The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes with just $44.6 million. So, congrats, Disney. At least you picked someone with room to grow. Good choice. But here's the real kicker. $65 million is a far cry from Disney's true box office giants. Let's rewind to 2019's The Lion King, a massive $191 million opening. Or how about Beauty and the Beast in 2017? That one stormed into theaters with $174 million, and both easily crossed the billion-dollar mark worldwide. Now, before we jump back to Snow White, let's talk about the Lion King prequel, because there's a huge elephant in the room, folks. Sure, it just overtook Sonic 3 at the box office, but only in revenue, not in profit, and definitely not in attendance. We did a deep dive on this, and guess what? Disney poured a wad, yes, W-A-D, of cash into marketing after realizing the film was struggling. And somehow, they managed to keep it locked into premium theaters and IMAX screens. Here's what we believe happened. That little strategy boosted ticket prices by roughly 30%. And if you actually count how many people showed up, it looks like Sonic 3 completely outpaced the Lion King prequel in audience numbers. Now, why does this matter? Simple. When it comes to Snow White, Disney can try every trick in the book. They can keep it in theaters for 6 months, throw millions into marketing, or flood premium screens. But at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. If it opens at $65 million, that's what we're reporting. No smoke, no mirrors. And guess what? Even the legacy media seems to be waving the white flag. Game Rant, oh yeah, the same outlet still backing Captain America, Brave New World, is already hedging its bets. They're saying, well, maybe it won't be a total flop, but let's be real. If they're already in damage control mode, that's all you need to know. Final prediction, this thing is looking at maybe $200 million total, and that's being generous. At best, Snow White is looking at around $200 million domestically, and worldwide, probably not much higher than that. Why? Because let's be real, there's zero evidence that the Barbie crowd is showing up for this. There's zero indication that the Inside Out 2 audience is making their way to theaters either. Disney was banking on that crossover appeal, but guess what? It's looking less and less likely. Still possible? Sure. But unlikely? Absolutely. And let's not forget, this is an expensive film. So if the numbers don't add up, we could be looking at a double dose of flops for Disney. Now, Ron, yeah, I gotta say this. What about the people waiting for live-action Prince Farquaad? Because let's be honest, that's what this is, right? She's basically stealing from Michael Eisner's bank account. Wasn't Farquaad literally based on Eisner? You tell me, but hey, at least Brett Cooper isn't dunking on this one anymore. So I guess that's one positive. And speaking of delays, wasn't this movie supposed to come out like forever ago? I mean, wasn't it originally scheduled for release over a year ago? Feels like it was meant to hit theaters right after the WGA strike, but then, boom, delayed again. Now here we are. Who even knows what version of this film we're getting at this point? One thing's for sure, it's going to pale in comparison to the original Snow White. And yeah, I know people are tired of hearing me say this, but you really should go back and watch the 1937 classic. That movie? A masterpiece. I've actually rewatched it a couple of times in the last 6 months, and it just reinforces how much of a historic achievement it was. Think about it. everything we know about Disney today? It only exists because Walt Disney bet the entire company on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. If that film had flopped, Disney as we know it wouldn't even exist. It was 1937, the first full-length hand-drawn animated movie ever. Handcrafted, frame by frame, something that set the foundation for every animated film that came after. And now, this is what they're trying to sell us as the new Snow White? Yeah, good luck with that, Disney. But here's the thing. The real problem isn't just the box office. It's what Rachel Zegler said about the 1937 class. Look, whatever PR cleanup she's tried since then, doesn't matter. Because when she first spoke about the original Snow White, she didn't just say, hey, times have changed and we're doing something new. Nope. She flat out dismissed it. She called it outdated. She mocked the prince, calling him a stalker. And honestly, that's just insulting to one of the most important films in Disney's history. If she had just said, the 1937 version is a classic, but we're updating it for modern audiences, fine. People still might not have loved the idea, but at least it would have been respectful. Instead, she basically trashed a masterpiece. And let's be real, she hasn't proven herself as anything other than someone who can belt out a song. But here's the kicker. Snow White isn't even a belter. I've seen some incredible clips of the original Snow White voice actress, especially that moment where she sings I'm Wishing alongside Julie Andrews. And that is what made the character special. That soft, innocent, ethereal voice that floats into a room like a rose petal in the breeze. Snow White isn't a diva, but Rachel Zegler, total diva energy. And that's why this isn't working. Snow White is supposed to be gentle, sweet. She represents the journey from innocence to maturity, not some warrior princess facing down spears like she's in a Marvel movie. And even if audiences don't know about Ziegler's off-screen controversies, whether it's her comments on the Middle East, the presidential race, or even the film itself, it doesn't matter. Because when they see this trailer, they know. They know this isn't Snow White. Message, message, message. The girl who once ran in fear through a darkened forest, lost and terrified by the branches reaching for her, has now been turned into this? Yeah, this is why people aren't buying it. And then there's that shot. Rachel Zegler standing there, chin up, indignant expression, staring down spears like she's some kind of warrior queen. That's not Snow White. Any true fan of the original will take one look at that and say, nope, I don't know what this is, but it's not Snow White. This is just some brat in a Snow White dress, girl bossing her way through the story, belting out songs like she's auditioning for Broadway. And you know what? Nobody asked for that. Snow White already had strength in the 1937 classic, but in a way that made sense. She wasn't a warrior, she wasn't a leader of men, she was a nurturing presence. When she found the Seven Dwarfs, she became their mother. Figure, something they desperately needed. She didn't just order them around, she loved them, cared for them, and in turn they cherished her. That's why people were drawn to her. Now, the vibe we're getting from Ziegler's Snow White, it's like everyone wants to get away from her. And let's be real here. When you're making a movie about the fairest of them all, and Gal Gadot is standing right there as the evil queen, she automatically wins that contest. Every single time. Now, I do think Gadot will crush it as the evil queen. I mean, she's perfectly cast. But does that mean I'm going to watch this movie? Even just to review it? Honestly? Nope. And that's a shame, because Disney has done live-action remakes right before. Cinderella, 2015. That was a fantastic adaptation. It stayed true to the heart of the original, while bringing in just enough new elements to make it fresh. But this movie has been a mess from the start. The budget spiraled out of control, the production was a disaster, they've practically remade it 3 times, and now they're throwing in some CGI dwarfs like that's going to fix everything.